Well, it's time to rock and roll on Real Estate Now. I am joined again for another amazing episode with my co-host Stacy Chevalier. Stacy,
Hey Keith, how are you?
I am great. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm excited for today's show.
Oh, today is going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. And before we jump into today's show and bring on our amazing speaker and guest, what should we talk about? Should we talk about one thing that we said we weren't going to talk about, but we're going to talk about it anyway?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You like that?
So go ahead. Fine. Here we go again. Rates continue to tick up a little bit. They're in a leveling off period. Real Estate Now talks about everything relevant in the real estate market. And today, one of the most relevant topics is rates. So I think we'd be remiss if we didn't touch on them. So they spiked up through the beginning of the year, and they're kind of turning this flattening out. And I think they're going to plateau. My take is they're going to plateau for the balance of the year until we get into 23, where we get to announce a full-on recession and we'll see rates improve in 23. So wanted to bring that. If you guys want any further details about the rate environment, what's going on, that the Federal Reserve's deleveraging from their balance sheet, and really get geeky about it, I would love to have that conversation with you. Just hit me, DM me, ping me, whatever you want to do. I'd love to have that conversation. Now, Stacy, I hope you agree with me, but now is still an amazing time to buy a house.
Now is a great time to buy. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you on rates, but we like to kind of take different sides on that.
Oh, okay.
I know.
Which side are you going? Which side are you going now?
Well, they did just recently kind of dip a little bit. So I do agree with you that we're kind of leveling out right now. I think we might see a movement by the end of the year. It would be my distinction. But Keith and I, if we had a magic 8 ball and we knew what was going to happen, we would not have these jobs. We would be billionaires living on some island somewhere. So don't take what we're saying as word. It's just our own personal opinions that we both think rates may drop again fourth quarter or first quarter, but they may not.
Okay, I'm saying first quarter. It sounds like you're saying fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Ooh, let's go. Let's see we'll see how it plays out. But still, rates in the mid fives. Amazing time to buy a house. Amazing investment, and a little bit of knowledge for all you out there. Appreciation rates after a recessionary period, that they short one time in the past 30 years, which was the mortgage meltdown, they have never depreciated. They've always stayed steady, and then after the recession is over, they take off again. So now is a great time to get into a house. And so there you have it. I don't want to say we're not going to talk about rates next episode, but we may talk about rates if they continue to have a fundamental change one way or another. So let's put a pin in it that way. How does that sound?
Sounds good. I like it.
Sweet. So am I introducing Todd, or are you introducing Todd today?
Go for it. I like this. I'm like co-host.
So today we're joined by an industry leader in the sales realm. So those of you that are in sales, mortgage, real estate, we're in sales. You like it or not, that's part of our job. But for outside of the industry, if you're in sales, today is a great episode for you to tune into. Also, you mortgage and real estate folks, amazing speaker that we have today. Joining us today is the founder and CEO of Win by Noon, the one, the only Todd Bookspan. Todd, how are you today?
I am doing excellent today. I love that you both have great crystal clear crystal balls and 8 balls that are telling us where rates are going.
Yeah.
Anytime I get to jump on and chat with smart folks like you is always a great day.
Well,
I think we should ask Todd what he thinks. So then we have 3 different opinions.
Okay.
What's your magic 8 ball tell you about rates?
My magic 8, mine is a little foggy right now.
Yeah. Says ask me again later.
Exactly. I haven't had an 8 ball in a long time, but I was joking my crystal ball is foggy. But, I'm kind of in the same belief as both of you that, we're going to see rates continue to kind of go like this a little bit upward, and then that eventually they'll level off and come back down. And I kind of think you guys are right on the money there. So if you're saying fourth quarter, you're saying first quarter, I'll just say, how about the first of the year? I'll shoot it right in between.
Right in between. Okay. Gotcha. Because I mean,
not really an answer, right? But that's okay.
New Year's Day is still a holiday, so it's not 22, it's not 23. It's like, so we're gonna. Todd's taking New Year's Day, so I like it.
I guess I'd probably lean towards a little bit later. So I'll say how about the end of first quarter, beginning of second quarter. I think it just kind of depends on, so many people believe we're already in a recession, and other people say it's coming next year, and so I think that's the $1 million question is, what does the Fed do, right?
Yeah. What does the Fed do? That is maybe even the $1 trillion question if we want to up the stakes a little bit.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. What's going on with that balance sheet?
Right, exactly.
So Keith and I, we're up in the Pacific Northwest. We're in the Seattle, Bellevue market. Keith in Idaho, actually, but he was in the
Panhandle,
King County area. We recently met at an event, which was great, meeting you face to face. But do you have original roots here in the Pacific Northwest or not?
I really don't. I sadly have done all of my life in mortgage. The mortgage world has been in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
I was just down there. It is beautiful.
Yes. Did you grow a team, though, down there with a mortgage company that was from up here?
Correct. Yeah. So I guess I did grow a region for a mortgage company that is no longer around. They were purchased, but I grew with my wife. We grew Arizona from about 4 of us to 4 branches and almost 100 employees in about 4 years, and they sold to a very large competitor of yours. And
that was Cobalt, right? The original one.
That was. So yeah, we ran Arizona.
Okay, that was in my head. Got it.
And we were the number one. My team was the number one. I was the number one producer at Cobalt during that time.
Sorry, you grew it to how many? 4 branches and
4 branches and almost 100 employees.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. My wife ran operations and I ran sales and ran our team. And we were closing, I think our last year there, we averaged, I think while we were there, about 80 million, about 400 transactions a year. And then the following year after that is when we hit our crossed 500 and about 115 million.
Awesome.
That was a great company. Yes.
That's cranking. Yeah, that's a lot of units, man. So
we talk units if you're in Arizona, because in Pacific Northwest, the loan officers up in your marketplace up there in Seattle and Bellevue, they did 200 loans for 80 million. We had to do 400 loans for 80 million to compete to be number one. So it was one of those things where all depends on where you live, whether you talk dollar volume or you talk units.
Yeah, so the coasts talks dollar volume. In between the coast talks units, and it's so funny. So
sometimes I feel bad when I see the awards and I'm like, oh, we didn't do nearly as many units. We just crushed them. But then I think about how much we're paying to live here, and I don't feel as bad. There
you go. You got to justify anyway.
Real estate's local, right? But,
right. Yes.
So Todd, you come from a culture of winning. And Win by Noon is your new system. Oh, I shouldn't say new. It's been around for quite a while now. So Win by Noon is your baby. Tell us a little bit about your system.
Win by Noon is my baby. Actually, we're about to celebrate our 5-year anniversary. We just shipped out the third quarter of this year, and so it's it's a lot of fun.
Wow.
What I found was, since we kind of talked about where I started is, I was like a lot of loan officers out there. I was working hard, having fun, making pretty good money, but we kind of had plateaued, right? We hit this number that was really good. We were averaging about 80 million a year, about 400 units for 3 straight years. But I had written in my business plan and my business vision was that I was a $100 million producer, right? I wanted to be that elusive, hit that goal. And I really had to have that bit of self-reflection and look at what was really holding me back. And so when I looked at it, I realized that ultimately what happened was that I woke up most days with great intentions, with a to-do list of what I thought was pretty important for me to get done that day. And I realized that I often got to the end of the day and didn't complete my most important tasks. And so as I was frustrated by the fact that I couldn't break through that $80 million ceiling, I realized that it was really, the fact was that I had too many things that were scheduled for me, and this ultimately got in the way of me doing those most important priorities. I had I mentioned my wife I worked with, she could schedule for me. I had a business partner, he could schedule for me. I had an assistant, she could schedule for me. I had a business development manager, she could schedule for me. And they would schedule things that were convenient for them or for the realtor I was going to meet with or whoever it was. And it wasn't really best for me. And what I realized is that the next year I just committed, I put on my calendar every day a call block. And that call block said, was from 8:30 to 11:30. I know it wasn't till noon, but win by noon sounds way better than win by 11:30. And so that next year I really focused on 8:29. I dropped my daughter off at school because she wouldn't go early, and I would zoom over to either the burrito shop, the 2 coffee shops, or the 2 restaurants near my office. And I just sat there and I just knocked out my most important activities first before I let myself get distracted by everything else. And so in a year in the Phoenix market that was flat year over year for sales, rates didn't drop, there was no refi boom, we didn't get some new big builder, but ultimately grew our business 44%, year over year, 551 units for almost 115 million, by just changing one thing, and that was just blocking that time in my morning. It didn't take me till noon, every day. It didn't take me till 11:30. Sometimes it took me 30 minutes. Sometimes it took me a couple of hours. But that was really, for me, the system I created that helped me really launch and grow my business to the level that I'd always had dreamed of doing by making that one minor change. Because in the end, we all know what we need to do, but the question always is do we have the structure and the ability to actually get it done without getting interrupted, without reacting to everything else, and really making sure that other people's priorities come before ours.
That's amazing. So when you talk about the change year over year for that year, was it just you doing the blocking out, or did you have everyone on your team block those couple hours out?
It was just me and my part of the business. What I did is what grew the 44%.
Wow.
That's great. I want to queue up on a word that I heard because I think it's like uber important for anybody in any sales position. You said an S word, and it's more than 4 letters, so we're safe there. You said structure. I don't know if I had the structure in my day. Can you expand on that?
Structure is such a hard thing, right? No one in sales really wants to sit down and have a real job. I hate to say it, right? I wasn't good at other jobs that I had where I had a boss and I had to actually sit at a schedule, right? But if we worked at I worked in a bicycle shop, so that was the closest thing I got to having structure. But I had a time I had to show up, and if I opened in the morning, I had to, wheel the bikes out front, and I had to, turn on the lights, and I had to, count the cash register and do certain things at certain times. And if I came in the middle of the day, I had different responsibilities. If I closed at the end of the day, I had different responsibilities. And so you had this structure, no different than if you worked at McDonald's as a kid or Starbucks or whatever it is that you do. And what I found is that I was a loan officer like every other loan officer I had watched when I got in the business, and I walked in the door and then I just opened my email and I just reacted to whatever was there, or I answered my phone and did whatever that person asked me to do versus being proactive in what I needed to do. And so what happened is that I wasn't that smart, right? I mean, I was doing these things, and I had actually created a group coaching program for one of the coaching companies, ironically out of the Pacific Northwest, called Building Champions. And at that time, I created what I called the ideal week. And I said, okay, here, not only am I going to do all these things in the morning before I let the rest of my day take over, but I'm going to do specific things first every day. I'm going to do specific things on certain days. And so I was coaching other people on it there. And then at that point, I had actually left the business. My team kept running. My wife and a business partner ran the team. And I coached for a couple of years full time for Building Champions. And in the middle of that, was coaching a client, and I was coaching, CEOs to some of the, the top loan officers in the U.S. And then I had some of my friends who were CEOs who said, hey, I know it's not really your ideal coaching client, but I've got this young kid, and they're all young men in their late 20s, early 30s. I call them my young guns, and it was maybe even more mentoring than it was coaching.
Right.
They weren't my target. My target really were loan officers trying to build and scale teams and leave the day-to-day of the business like I had. And but these young guns, one of them was called me coach. Hey, coach, no, just help me understand. And I finally asked better questions. As a coach, you learn to ask good questions and listen more, which we're not always great at in sales. And he was saying, well, just tell me how you did it, coach. Like, what did you do? And I kind of put 2 and 2 together and realized that my numbers were a lot more than his. I had more leads. I had more applications. I had more transactions going, and he was, quote, busy, right? Everyone says that they're busy. And then the question is always busy doing what? And he finally said, well, coach, if you could just put that together for me, then I think I could do that. And then lo and behold, I walked out of my office to a guy named Adam Nelson, who's my right hand in Win by Noon, who did the marketing for our team. I said, Adam, I had my notebook that had all the stuff I did, all the Win by Noon activities and how I tracked my ideal week. And I said, hey, make this into a product. And lo and behold, the
Awesome.
planner was created and off we went. But it's really just built around that whole idea of, number one, it's just a philosophy, right? It's just the philosophy of, getting the most important activities done first. It's a business planning tool because it will help you, design out your week and make sure that you're putting the most important priorities first. And then really in the end, it's a day planner that you can use to track it all, but you don't have to do that in order to understand the concept and do those most important things first before you get distracted by all those, oh, look, there's a bird, right? All those other things that we all do.
Oh, and there's plenty. I mean, in any sales organization, but specifically in mortgage and real estate, there's lots of things that get you all distracted. So that's awesome.
I love that. I think like you need to have your team stand behind you on that though too, right? Because I'll block out parts of my calendar, and then like you, I have different people who have access to my calendar, and they've learned like, oh, that's just a block, right? Like that's Stacy time, which means we can schedule over it. She's not like with a recruit. She's not doing this. So really protecting your time is my takeaway from what you've shared so far to help organize that.
Yeah, and you nailed
Your
it,
day.
Stacey. You have to get buy-in from your team. You have to educate them on what you're doing if you're going to be successful at it. So as I mentioned, I first hid out, right? I would go to the burrito shop. I'd sit there and, I knew all these people in all these places because they were like, what's this guy doing? He's on the phone. He's really loud and he's here for 2 or 3 hours, every day. And so eventually they saw that the volume was picking up. They saw that things were happening. And then I was able to sit them down and say, okay, here's what I'm doing. And here's how I need you to help me. So I literally just put a little Post-it note on the door. It said, do not disturb. I said, if my door is shut, I'm doing those important activities, and they all listened to me other than my wife, but she's my wife, and no one disturbed me. They allowed me to do it. And then I even had the gift for almost 3 months. I actually worked in a real estate office as well. So I worked with a pretty high producing team, and they wanted a loan officer to be in the office from 9 to noon while they were doing their dialing. So I would go there, plug in alongside of them, and I was in it. And again, it gave me that that bubble to be in where, they might refer me, hey, here's a client that needs to be pre-qualified while I was sitting there. And then, but I didn't love that structure either. So luckily I was able to hire then a loan officer who got to sit in that office instead of me.
Right. Awesome. So one thing that I want to go back to, you said you guys just are into you've completed your 5 years, right? So you're onto your next half of the decade. Wow, that's kind of cool. How is it manifested and changed the process and your business on the Win by Noon side?
That's a great question of how it's changed over time. It was funny because for the first 2 years, the product kind of evolved based on user feedback, right? I mean, certainly what worked for me wasn't going to work for everybody else. And so we were able to do surveys and get great client feedback. I think probably the number one thing that happened was sort of that blinding flash of the obvious. As soon as we put it out for loan officers, and I was pretty fortunate because I was part of a mastermind group where I let some of my loan officer and coach friends use it and give me feedback on it. So it was a pretty good product when it came out. But then the first thing everyone said, well, where's the real estate agent version of it? So I was like, all right, that's super obvious. And so we came out with the real estate agent version. That's about 50% of our clients, right
Nice.
now. We evolved there. We've got a insurance agent version. We've got an executive version. We've got two kind of top secret versions that we literally are sitting in my truck that we're just getting ready to pilot with one with a financial planning organization and one with there's a new book out called Raving Referrals, and we have a Raving Referrals version of the planner that we're piloting. And so it's really
Not that you need more pilots, but maybe a kid version. I'm
gosh,
really into coaching
Look
young
at
adults.
that.
help me with a kid version. That would be amazing.
Yeah,
That
I
would
have
be
my son in coaching, and I think it's such a great. He's only 11, and I think the younger. I just have a big heart for this right now, probably because of my kids' age. But I think the earlier we can start getting kids onto something like Win by Noon could have an amazing trajectory to help them just through high school and college and life.
I'm in. I would tell you that my kids were like, you should do one for students, Dad. And so I'm like, great, let's do it. But I could never
Yeah.
get them to actually help me with it because I thought, well, it's been a little long since I've been in school, so I probably wouldn't be the best person for that. But yeah, I would love any kind of collaboration like that. To me, is always exciting. I helped a company, ironically, out of the Seattle area that was working up for one for healthcare providers, people who were helping like in one-on-one and small situations that needed to be able to track medication. So I'm really passionate about how do you help anyone get more organized. And then We've been working for a while on an app, but hopefully by Q4
Oh,
we'll have an
cool.
app out, which I think will be great because there's so many great coaching organizations in the mortgage space. It's one of the things I really love about where we're at, and I've got really a lot of support from all these different organizations and coaches where they say, hey, here's what you need to do, and then their students are using Win by Noon as the vehicle to track it, which has been a lot of fun. And then for me, it's
Yeah.
kind of evolved in more of this, right? I get to really add more value to the community. As I mentioned, I stopped coaching full time because Win by Noon was growing, and it was just really a great opportunity. And so I've been really fortunate to get to go out and teach and share, Win by Noon, primarily to loan officers, but to real estate agents as well, all over the country, and help different organizations launch it as a tool that they could have to have a uniform language, a common language that they all talked about, in a way for them to ultimately be able to record their activities and track their results, so that it wasn't like, oh, surprise, I did more business, but they could say, okay, gosh, you know what, if I actually, if I call 15 people today, then that should result in one closed loan at the end of the year, and kind of take the mystery out of what it takes. What do I have to do today in order to have the result that I'm looking for at the end of the year, especially in a market like this that is becoming more complex and is changing every day.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think I have that conversation daily with my team. So
Yeah, and I
that's
was
it.
just out visiting Keith and his team, and I stopped by our Spokane office, and guess what was there? A Win by Noon. And funny that you say it can go hand in hand with coaching programs, because that's exactly what she told me. She said, I'm doing the Ninja program, and it's always successful when I do it with Win by Noon. So she's collaborated them. She pulled out all your planners. She saves all of them every quarter, and you can go back and you can see what worked and didn't work, and it's an amazing resource. I think it's really incredible.
It's funny you say that because we just moved, and so here I've got all these planners I'm dragging around, and my wife's like, don't you need to get rid of any of those? And there's just so much gold in there that you have over
Yeah.
time. But it's not. We all know success leaves clues, and it just gives you the opportunity to go in there and say, okay, the market is changing. And I found that everyone uses Win by Noon slightly different. There's no perfect way to use that or any system
Mm.
that's out there, but it's an opportunity to look at your numbers, day in, day out, week in, week out, and then figure out what worked, what didn't work. And then it's really a way to see the shifting market. So like my team saw the shifting market, way before. I had loan officers who were, taking 20, 21 calls to a client, or 20, 21 outbound calls to result in a closed loan. And all of a sudden it was crept up to 24, 25 loans or calls to close a loan. And then all of a sudden it was closer to 30 loans. So you could sort of see that the market was changing. And if they wanted to still keep their goal for closed loans at where it was set, they were going to have to increase
Yeah.
their activity to get there, that the market was moving that direction. So they could see it in their numbers before you really knew it was happening. And that's one of the things where when someone truly uses it at that level and they truly take the time to dig in, to me, there's a lot of magic in it. It's a lot of fun.
So that magic that you speak of is it comes down to, correct me if I'm wrong, it comes down to accountability, right?
Ooh, but no one wants accountability. That's the problem. Everyone
Right.
needs it, but nobody wants it. And I tend to find that when someone's using Win by Noon with a coach, or they're using it with a coaching organization, that's where they're getting that accountability, right? The challenge
Right.
with it is it's always self accountability, and you probably see it in your organization. I mean, that's no one actually says, "Hey, can you hold me accountable?" And very few people do.
Have you got that call yet, Stacy?
Strangely, I have a few times over my career, and sometimes I'm like, oh, that's not me. That's not what I'm going to do. Now I'll hand him the Win by Noon planner. But does it have, I've never used it, but I'm not in sales, but I can totally see how I could use this as a leader. So I'm going to look into that. But does it give loan officers ideas, like specific action items, like go try this week? Or is it more for them to figure out and they track what they're doing?
It's great question. So how is it structured? Ultimately it's structured around however they're going to choose to have it be structured. When I teach the ideal week, so it's one of the concepts. Again, it's not only a Win by Noon concept. A lot of coaching organizations have something, pretty similar. But I always say that there's every single day there's activities that you have to do as a daily discipline, and that's calling leads every day. And you've got to call loan applicants who you haven't gotten a pre-qualification letter out, right? Because we know they're infinitely more likely to buy a home with you and your realtor if you actually give them that pre-qual letter. And it's amazing to me how often, I'll just use myself as an example when I did loans, where, you get that call from a realtor and is that dreaded call, and then you're like, hey, what's up? They're like, oh, have you gotten a hold of Stacy yet? I'm like, oh, I left her a voicemail. And I'm thinking, okay, I tried a week ago, but I forgot since then. Or where did I write it down, right? So again, when you have the planner there, you just write it in the planner, and then yes, it should get in your CRM, but you write your leads in the lead spot in the planner and you write your notes in there so that you actually have it, whether, wherever you're at. But I tend to find that it was my lack of discipline, my lack of structure, I'll use Keith's words from earlier, that caused me not to have that. So I say every day you've got to be calling leads, and you've got to be calling applicants who you haven't gotten a pre-qual out. And then, I kind of believe in what a lot of other coaching organizations would call theme days. I call them target day activities. And for me, so like we're recording this on a Tuesday, so it's a update call day. And again, a lot of other organizations do it that way. I want to do it on Mondays. My wife said, nope, Tuesdays is the day you should do that. So therefore I did it on Tuesdays because she thought the team couldn't have all the systems updated on Mondays. And then of course, Mondays are holidays sometimes. So Tuesday turned out to be a great day. Wednesday, call, pre-approved clients. And if you don't follow up with them, they won't follow up with you, right? They've all got an internet addiction, and they're all out there searching for homes, and they find other realtors, and that realtor has something else. It's called a lender, and that lender's typically not you. So therefore, you've got to be the one who's proactively keeping in touch with them. Thursday, realtor day, call your realtors. You can tell them what you learned from their clients on Wednesday. Make sure they are giving you all their leads that you need so that you can protect your weekend. So I think that's my weekend protection day. Is Wednesday's pipeline protection, Thursday is weekend protection, because they forgot to refer over that Keith and his family are flying in from Idaho to Phoenix to look at homes this weekend, and they don't remember to give me the lead until 7:00 on Saturday when I'm getting ready to walk into a movie, and they need to pre-qual right then. If I check in, what are you doing this weekend on a Thursday, then they can say, oh, have you talked to Keith and his family? I'm like, who? And then that gives me a day and a half to track Keith down and get the application so I can protect my weekend. Friday's a great day for me for annual mortgage reviews. I'm just a huge believer. I'm a big mortgage coach fan, as those who know me know. Yes. And so because
Mortgage Coach rocks, man.
We are too. We love Mortgage Coach.
Huge Mortgage Coach. So Dave, we love you.
I mean, if we had an hour more, I could talk about why I love Mortgage Coach, but I didn't get it on my first day in the mortgage business on accident, and I literally just changed my career, super.
You got it on your first day, Todd?
My first
by
day,
accident.
I bought Mortgage Coach.
That's amazing. That is a story.
And I bought it. I went to a Mortgage Originator Magazine seminar. None of you are old enough to know what that is, but it was a seminar that my company took me to, and I saw someone present on Mortgage Coach, and I bought it because I thought, that totally made sense to me. And it took me 10 years to become Dave's friend, but, now he and I are buddies. We've done
that's serendipitous, though, man, because that tool's the best thing since sliced bread for mortgage originators to help the client understand what they're doing with their mortgage. It's a powerful tool. So
I have a question on your original. We have to go back in the conversation a bit, but you've been doing Win by Noon now for 5 years. So think back to before you blocked your calendar. Did you initially feel that you were not accomplishing things that you were accomplishing before you did the blocking? Like, what did you have to just cut out and get over that you weren't going to be part of?
Did your system look like this?
I had lots of Post-it notes all stuck all over it, yes. I was a note guy, right? So you would put things there. So, I think the biggest thing was I was pretty good at having a to-do list, right? So I carried around a little notebook and sometimes. And so I'd write things in it, and then I wouldn't remember when did I write it in there. And I had to figure out where the notebook was. And I tended to do whatever someone else told me I should do. So if I had, a coffee meeting with a realtor at 9:00 that went till 11:00, then I'd be like, oh, it's lunchtime. I might as well go to lunch, and then, get in the office, and then my process would be like, hey, you need to get this paycheck and, pay stub from somebody. So I was just chasing after things that really weren't the most important priorities that I had. I just never set aside time to actually work on my business. I was just always working in my business. And so by having structure, it made me more consistent. It made me a better referral partner, maybe a better client. And transparently, I thought I was a great loan officer. And I think any of you who are watching this who think you're the best loan officer to help your clients, well, then you need to follow up with them, because if you don't follow up with them, they're not going to follow up with you. And so I wasn't as good at following up with them because I just didn't have a system for it. I didn't track it. I knew what I was supposed to do. I mean, we've all heard it. I mean, I'm sure you two talk about it each week here and tell everyone what to do. And the question is, are they taking the action to to make it all happen. And so for me, it was just inconsistency. So I didn't, I knew it was a good idea to call realtors and give them updates on a transaction because they all want communication, but I didn't have a system for it. So once I said, hey, I'm going to do this every Tuesday, guess what? If I didn't do it every Tuesday, I didn't look good. I looked like kind of a schmo. So all of a sudden, that listing agent, we all have heard it, it's cliche, would start referring me business because they're like, oh my gosh, you actually did what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do. So it forced me to be consistent because of that. And it was just easier to do also because I was in my CRM. I could look at this list of the pipeline of here's their clients that are going, and I could call them all at one time versus saying, oh, well, let me just randomly give you an update, or, oh, thanks for calling me for an update because I'm reacting to you because I wasn't proactive. And then, oh, let me figure it out. And then either, I think a lot of loan officers make stuff up. Well, I think it's in processing. Oh, I think it's in underwriting, wherever it is. And then this is just an easier way to control the activities versus, really just chasing my own tail. I think that's just, I'm embarrassed to say it, but that's, we were successful. We were doing $80 million worth of business, but I certainly could have gotten a lot further, a lot faster had I been more organized and had a system like I have now with Win by Noon.
Accountabilities are huge. I like the word, like you said, Todd, not a lot of people do because we have a negative connotation with it. I changed my frame of reference, but that's an awesome system. I want to talk to you really quick about, we talk about lending and real estate on the show, but you said you have some extra versions out there. Where does somebody start to integrate either with the lending, real estate, or you said CEO? Did you say a CEO version is coming out?
We have an insurance one and an executive version. So the executive version is really sales and recruiting without any loan or real estate specific metrics.
Okay. Nice.
Right. So they all look pretty similar, right? If you held them up and looked at them front and inside, they all look about the same. You really start with yourself because it's hard to teach and help someone else with something that you don't understand on your own. And so we've got a really detailed edition. It's called the Launch Edition. It's undated and it's got instructions in it. So it actually walks you through how to get started with it. And then we also have what's called a Quick Start. It's a free video tutorial. It drips out a video every day for a week on how to use the planner. So it's got the visual for someone who wants to actually read it and super detail oriented, and it's way more detail oriented than I personally am. I like the video version of it because it's just, hey, here's the high points on it. So that's really where you start. And then we have lots of webinars and seminars that we do to launch people. I mentioned Adam earlier, my right hand. I mean, he'll jump on the phone and every week he's got a scheduled webinar to get new users started. And he'll jump on the phone with people individually, when he's got time as well, if they can't for some reason make one of those sessions. So we're really invested in helping people get launched. And then once you get launched that way, then it's a great tool to use with your real estate agents. I mean, one of the things that I did as a loan officer to build up my real estate agent referral network was teach business planning every year with title companies. And I did quarterly business planning. So ironically, since it's a quarterly planner, it gives you the ability to sit down, use the A word, accountable, with your real estate agents who are looking to try to grow their business as well. And that was always a great opportunity. And so I would say that, a lot of the real estate agents that we have as subscribers found it by working with their loan officer. And then it's the same way we got the insurance agent edition. It's not a huge edition for us, but an insurance agent reached out because he saw his loan officer using it, said that was really cool. And so he was using it and he was marketing it up. And then Adam picked up the phone and called him, and they came up with a version of it that worked for insurance agents, and it's been ever since. And then, even like we talked about, well, now Stacy and I are going to do a kids version of it, so I'm not going to for that. But we're doing a social media version right now with Deborah Bird from Plug and Play SM. And so we've got other things in the pipeline where people are like, hey, this would be a great thing for me to do, to help people out. And so I'm just super passionate about it. I feel like everyone wants to reach their potential, whatever they believe it to be, and they don't always know how to get there. And I feel like it's a great tool to help someone get there faster.
So do people just go to winbynoon.com, or where do they go to find it? And I believe you said you just shipped a bunch out. Can people sign up at any time of the year, or is it a quarterly type start?
That is a great question. So we came out the launch. So you go to winbynoon.com to buy it. So you're correct about that. And then your first edition is going to be the launch edition. Like I said, it's undated. So you can start at any time, because that was the first thing I had, because after that, subsequent quarters get shipped out and they're dated. So all the subscribers just got their Q3 2022 dated planner all shipped out to them. So that is on its way to them. And they'll get it. And then so if someone subscribes, it's inexpensive. It's $19.99 a month. or $200 a year. Includes shipping, and it's, if you can get like one more loan from it, it pays for itself for like 20 years or something crazy.
Yeah, I was gonna
So
say
it's like it's a low bar. It's an inexpensive way to get yourself going, but ultimately it will. You start with the launch edition, and then subsequent quarters will ship out dated. And again, we'll do everything we can do to help pull you along. We've used the accountability word a few times, and we run accountability challenges here and there, but I tell you, it scares people off. But I would love anything I can do to help hold someone accountable is always good for me. I tend to do once a year a group coaching and training, for a quarter, and I hold those folks accountable. But even those people are paying me for it, don't want to be held accountable. But for me, that's why I still have a coach, but that's why I got a coach. I needed someone to, if I said I was going to be somewhere, to make sure I was there and did what I said I was going to do when I said it.
That's pretty awesome.
What was you just flipped across the screen something that costs $50. What's the difference between the $19.99 and
the $50 one is for those people who want to pay more money for it, and then you buy it that way. You get a single edition, but you don't get the bookmarks with it, and you have to pay shipping on top of that. So that's the most expensive way to buy it, but that's how you would buy it if you wanted to give it as a gift.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah, that's a great gift.
Shipping, and you get free bookmarks. So that's the way to do it. But we had to put that on there for the end of the year. And then I also do have, you'll notice that there's quantity discounts on that page. And so there are, if you buy 6 or 10 or more. So I do have some companies who have teams, and so the teams will all have bulk orders. But any bulk, I've got people who buy them up to 40 and 50 at a time.
Yeah.
I want to dive into a little bit of a debate. I won't say which side of the fence I'm on, but you brought up the idea of scheduling and planning on a quarterly basis. And, there's two camps. There's like, oh, let's plan the year and let's plan the quarter. So tell us why you guys queued up on the quarter.
Sure. So, I'll back it up, and I'll say that every December and January, I do an annual plan. So
Awesome.
I believe in having an annual business plan. Mm-hmm. And so in the front of the planner, it's got your annual plan, then it's got your quarterly plan, and then how am I doing, on the year to date. So I believe that you should be planning a year at a time. Mm-hmm. But most people, if you wait till later, if I wait till now to how am I doing for the year, then I'm going to probably be off track and haven't made any course corrections. So I believe that you want to chunk it down to quarterly, then you want to chunk it down to monthly, and then really, again, Win by Noon is going to have you add up all your numbers and your progress every week. So not just monthly and quarterly, but I really believe you chunk it down so you can see how am I doing on track. Because if you've ever read the book, The 4 Disciplines of Execution, there's a bunch of authors, but one of them was one of the Sean Covey's, Mr. Covey, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People's Sons. And they talk about the fact that you have your goal is really is the end of the year goal, and it's a lag measure when we're talking about closed loans. We're not really going to know, are we hitting it till we get later in the year? So what are those lead indicators I need to be looking at today, which we know is picking up the phone and calling people, and it's talking to people and meeting with people. And so those are when I say that we're recording activities, that's what we're recording. How many clients did I call today? How many leads did I call? How many new realtors did I call that are prospects? How many of my current referral partners did I call? Who did I actually talk to? Who did I meet with? And really, that's going to be the tip of the spear, right? That's what you've got to be doing now to figure out where you're going. And so from a planning perspective, I believe, you can tell me how many loan applications I need in order to get a closed loan. You can tell me how many leads I need to get a loan application. But really what I want to know is how many people actually have to call and meet with and talk to you this week if I'm going to hit my goal at the end of the year. And so I don't know if I answered your question on that.
Oh, you did.
Opinion on it. But I believe in chunking it down, and I believe that most people, they just say, oh, I'm going to do 100 loans this year. And at the end of the year, they're like, oh, I only did 65. And they wonder why. And I would say that someone who's using Win by Noon, even if you're using half of what Win by Noon could do, is going to know pretty quick, am I on track to close my 100 loans or not?
Right.
Be able to figure out for themselves what is they need to increase. Because in the end, we all know it. Increased activity is going to lead to increased results. The question is how much do I have to increase my activity to get the result that I want?
Right.
Now, I'll take that one step deeper, and this is going to be like a inner circle kind of moment. But I'm a procrastinator, and I'm highly confident in myself. So that's what I love about quarterly planning, because as a procrastinator that's highly confident in myself, I'm like, oh, It's fine. We didn't hit that number this month. I'm not worried about it. And so when you look at different things other than the end goal, which is important to have, because I like you, Todd. I do annual planning and then how we're going to get there through quarter, month, week, and so. For any of you guys watching today that are like me, you're a procrastinator and you're highly confident in your abilities, if you take a system like Todd's and win by noon, exponential growth is possible. It's crazy cool.
I may or may not be a procrastinator myself. I'm a reformed procrastinator, but I think a lot of people in sales are, right? I don't think that's
Yes.
tremendously uncommon. I think
Nope.
it's more common than we would think. But most people don't admit it. So thank you for admitting it, Keith.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And for those of you that don't want to admit it, you can admit it to yourself and
Yeah.
then still get involved in one of these programs so you can take it to the next level. So, right.
We've actually done some great studying and research on procrastination in an accountability group we have. So I don't know if you made that one, Keith, but I'm going to share an article with you. So anyone who's a
Oh, yeah.
procrastinator, reach out to us. It has more to do with your feelings and things like that than really
I
trying to
love
be a
learning about
procrastinator.
myself. Send it
Yes.
over.
Well, but
I will.
that's kind of the win by noon piece comes in though for procrastinators, right? It's just it's the whole eat the frog, get those difficult things done that because that's the craziest part about it. If you know what your top 3 to 5 things you have to do today are and you get them done, then it doesn't matter what you do the rest of the day. It's just the fact is that most people say, well, my clients answer the phone more at the end of the day. That's when I'm going to call them. And I'm like, great. Well, how consistently do you call them at the end of the day? And they're like, oh, drop their eyes. They don't want to make eye contact because they just don't do it very consistently because you're just busy reacting at that point. And so
Yeah.
identifying and admitting it first, that's the first step, Keith. So congratulations on that.
Damn.
And I love that you
So-
just said that because how many times do we put things off till the end of the day because of that? Like we think it's the right thing to do. But if I think what you're saying is no, just even if more people don't answer the phone, at least you're getting it done and you're leaving that message. So just get everything done in the morning.
Well, and the statistics actually show that the 2 best times to reach a lead is between 8 and 10 a.m. and between 4 and 6 p.m. And so I mainly have to challenge real estate agents on that because they all believe that their clients answer the phone more at the end of the day. I think they're just oftentimes, sleeping. They just don't want to admit it between 8 and 10. And so I don't ever want to call them out, but I say, awesome, well, just call them between 8 and 10, leave them a voicemail, and then they'll call you back in the day. And by all means, if you have extra time from 4 to 6, by all means, dig in and dial in too, because again, it's the other time that you're most likely to get a hold of people. And so you might as well, double down, especially if you've got lots of leads that aren't converting.
Yep. There it is.
I love that. I'm often stuck in my own head. Like, I don't want to call them 8's too early, even though I don't know, people get up at 4 in the morning. I don't know why in my head I'm like, oh, it's just too early. I'm going to get over it. I'm going to try your system, Todd. I'm going to let you know how it is. And I'm going to work with my son on how we can make this work for middle schoolers, high schoolers.
That would be
There
the
you
best.
go.
I would love it. I would
Yeah.
love to see what we can do. I'd love to see your study on procrastination too.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do
I'll get
it.
it to you. Yeah.
Let's do it. So Todd, we're coming up on our hour already, if you can believe that. Tell us what you're doing as we enter summer. Tell us what you and the family is doing for this summer. What's your plans?
Well, I'm going to be in Venice Beach, California for
nice.
a couple months this summer. So I'm looking forward to escaping the Arizona heat. The last couple of years we had an Airstream. We cruised all around the country and that was a blast.
How
So anyone who's
cool.
ever dreamed of doing that, reach out. And then I'm not sure. I think this may air after it, but I'll be in San Diego with Dave Savage doing the Modern Mortgage and Modern Real Estate Summits, which if you missed it, you can always buy the recording of it and then watch it later. But that's always been a lot of fun as well. But
Yes.
it's just such a great time. I mean, I think that this market, you guys started off talking about the market. I mean, we all know it's a great time for people to own homes. We know it's a great time to give great advice. And, I love the fact that, you as leaders are spending the time, investing your time to help those that work with you grow. And so I was super privileged to be here and be part of this.
Absolutely. We are honored that you carved out the time and
Yes.
you were a busy man. I will say this, Todd, you win the trophy for the busiest person that we've interviewed thus far. So
I don't know if I
kudos
want
to
that
you.
trophy. I'm just I'm very scheduled out as you might imagine, which is good.
That's awesome. That's a testament to what you're doing, and you're keeping that sacred time sacred, and you're getting on
Yes.
with your game. So you're a testament to what you're doing. So well done.
No, I appreciate that. I think it's one of those things where, as I was growing my mortgage business, I also wanted to grow the time I had with my family, and especially anyone like Stacy who's got young kids. I mean, there's nothing more rewarding, I think, as an originator, even if you're not married, even don't have kids. If you've got friends or significant others or family members that you want to spend time with, when you can own your business life, you can own the rest of your life. And I think that that's really the key. If you can bring any semblance of organization to your day to day, it overflows outside of the office, and that's really where you can be present, right? When you have systems, you can be present. When you have systems, you can show up and know what to do. You don't have to think about it. And the old adage of getting more done in less time, and then being there and being present is really important. And that was, for me, the biggest thing. I just last couple of weeks, my travel's been to college graduations, one out in LA, one in New York, and the fact that I can look back and say, you know what, even though I was doing all those loans, I still spent a lot of time with my family is really what I'm most proud about. And I think that if I can help anyone else do that just even a little bit better, then I've accomplished what I'm out here to do.
Oh, amen, brother.
Oh, that's very exciting.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I had to fly straight from New York to LA. They didn't give us any time, no space. That was all right. That was all right. I'm super proud of them, and excited to go spend some time out in LA with my daughter.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you again, Todd. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll definitely be circling back with you in the near future and learning what's new in Win by Noon.
Yes,
awesome.
Thank you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Right on.